A pleasure to be here and speaker to all of you. And I was on a leave from past 2 weeks. I had gone up in the mountains in the Himalayas, and so I spent a lot of time in the waterfalls and everything, and hence I came back and I was unwell immediately after. And but of course, this presentation and this talk was supposed to happen today, so I'm here, and I'll do as much justice to this. I had prepared something for you guys. I'm not like a very great speaker, but I'm going to try to kind of give you some interesting nuggets from my journey that can be like really helpful for all of you while you're just kind of shaping your careers. And the last time I spoke to Hank, and he gave me like a one-line brief that was to kind of make a talk that helps you all come up with what is your why, like, what's your purpose, or uh, maybe even find your purpose, or those kind of very difficult questions. But let's see, like, how much I can kind of help you with all of that. And maybe to begin with, I can start a little bit about myself, a bit about my journey into design and advertising. So I didn't really go to any design school. I come from a background, like my mother's an artist. She's a fine artist, and while I used to kind of bail away a lot of time in college, she decided that I should be doing something productive while I am at college. So just right after the college, I would go and assist one of my mother's friend's studio. She had her own web design and design studio. So I used to go and sit there and learn a lot of interesting uh, I basically got all my software knowledge at job, and then I used to kind of sketch a lot at that time. And all of these things coming together is how I stumbled into design and advertising. And going forward, I took up a job at Ogilvy as an intern. I worked there as an intern art director for like 5 to 6 months. After which I realized it's a huge agency. Ogilvy was one of the the biggest agencies here in India. So I wasn't very comfortable. I moved to a smaller design studio from there because I generally kind of felt that I thrive better with lesser people around. So I kind of kept stumbling between advertising and design. So once I interned at Ogilvy, I moved to a design studio. I was working there for like at least 3 to 4 years uh, in brand identity and typography. And eventually, again, there was something that happened that I moved back into advertising. And because I realized that I enjoy thinking of ideas that can be used, like ideas that have a slight utilitarian approach, something that people can actually use, and it's not just a feel good or like a great piece of strategy, but it has some sort of real use. So that's what I started to like to do. And then I kind of realized that uh, if that's my forte, how do I bring it to life? Because coming up with ideas is probably something that all of you can do easily. It's just about how do you get that work done. Having an idea and then making it actually happen, it's a long journey. So I'll try to cover those points here. Hence my title is Design What You Can't. And you know ideas are babies, and you are the guys who will care for it and make it happen. So you are the neonatal ICUs for your ideas. And we'll talk a little more about that through some of my poor copywriting skills. uh, I already spoke a bit about me, and yeah, so that's me. And I always go along with my team. I kind of feel that uh, as much as we are designers and we know things, we have everything to, make something happen, but I really feel that it doesn't happen without a solid team. So it's very important for me, so hence I always introduce myself with my team also. Of course, the people you like, people and faces that you see here, all of them have moved to different agencies. So it doesn't stay the same team, but you will always have, like, like-minded people, and you'll always have like lots of people once, your energies and your ideas are in place. So um so yeah, that's about the team. And I'd actually like to start with Blink to Speak. I thought maybe I can take you through um, how Blink to Speak happened. And I mean, not too much in details, but just like the basic ingredients of this idea that happened. As And I can just, like, take you through. So I mean, we've all heard about empathy, like it's like one of the things that I mean, we know that it's the most important ingredient for coming up with a great idea that tries to solve a problem. So yes, one is that, and then the other thing is constraints. I feel like constraints are equally important, because the tighter the box, the more creative your solution can get. So hence, constraints was another important ingredient for Blink to Speak. I will tell you what really I meant with that. Um, Innovation, of course, I mean, it is like, when we talk about innovation, we think that we are talking about some really uh, you know like some sort of tech intervention, which is great. I mean, of course, but for Blink to Speak, there was actually no tech intervention. It was purely a new way of thinking, a new way of seeing at looking at a problem. So sorry, so I won't call it like a tech intervention, but it was an analog solution to a very difficult problem. And of course, like I mentioned before also, you really need a team, to adopt the entire idea. And that's kind of, these are the four very important ingredients for making an idea happen. At least for me, these things kind of worked really well. uh, so basically, I mean, somebody in my family was going through a very tough time, and he was detected with ALS. And there was like a long time that I have spent with him, realizing that the problems that he faced with in communication. And for the longest time, I had no solution, and it was just kind of, I think, building up inside me, till the time when he was almost like, I think a month before he actually passed away, is when I came up with this idea. It was too late for him to take it up, but I realized that it was only because I looked at the problem. I was always around this person, looking at him, figuring out what's going wrong, and how can I solve this problem of him not able to communicate. So it was all about observation, and staying close to the problem, and listening to the problem really. And it's not like I didn't try. I mean, we got him some interest, like like really helpful applications on the iPad, where you could look at a picture and tell us that this is what you require. So when you can't communicate, there are different ways that you can bring it together. And but the problem was that the when you have ALS, there's like even your hands start to contract like this, so you can't really touch the screen properly. And hence it was getting even more difficult for us to kind of figure out how do we make him communicate with us, because he could not speak at all. And then we realized and we saw that, his eyes were kind of moving all the time. Like, he would look up at the ceiling and try to communicate to us that, can you switch on the AC, or switch off the AC? And it took us a lot of time to understand that he meant, when he looked up, he meant to turn on the AC. And we used to keep prompting different things to him, and then he would kind of somehow communicate to us. And this was getting really, frustrating for him and for us as well. And that's when, like, something as simple as, look up, and that means water, is what I wrote on the like, on the wall right in front of him. So there were just 2 3 commands that I had written down, that okay, fine, you blink and I will know that you need a doctor, or you have, so, like, something's wrong with you. So that was just really the beginning. And later on I went, I mean, when I was like a regular day at office, I was just discussing these things with my team. And then we were like, figuring out, like, everybody were very interested into figuring out how can we really create a language through this. And that's when, I started to put together, like, all the eye movements, and that usually a normal eye can do, which is like look up, down, right to left, or roll your eyes, and all of that. And we quickly created some permutations and combinations, and created, like, some 10 to 15 commands. But it wasn't enough for us, because this was all in our head. And I had a little bit of uh, you know validation from my uncle, because he was able to use some of the commands, like, not entirely, but like something very simple, like look up, and that means water. So we really needed to speak to the doctors. And so we had one of our clients, actually, I went to them and I spoke to them about this idea. And then the doctors kind of validified that, uh, that when a person has some sort of neurological disorder, the one thing, like, your eyes kind of stay with you till the very end. So there shouldn't be any problem with creating an eye language. And that's really when we started to, then we added up more commands and made like around 50 original commands, which were very important for all the patients to use. And then it was like a pure design thinking formula of, what is easy. So like, which eye movement is easy, and which ones are difficult, which commands are very important, so that we kind of correlate a simple eye movement with those commands. And the ones that are not used enough can be kind of a little difficult, but can be right in the end. So we did, like, a segregation of all the permutation combinations like that. And then we also realized that, because the quality of life for such patients is not really good, and we don't want to make this very grim again. So how can we still create like a little warmth in this language? Hence we included commands like, thank you, I'm proud of you, I love you, happy birthday. All of these, like, if you look at the book, you will see that there are like at least 7 to 8 commands which are also more meaningful. Like, you can have like a little um, uh, conversation apart from just saying that, you have pain in this part of your body, or, you know uh, you need like some sort of medical emergency. So we wanted to create that mix of commands. And I have an interesting story that, after the like the speech therapists at Neurogen, which is our clients, like the hospital, the speech therapist started to use this book with some of the coma patients. I hope you guys know, like, when what really coma is, right? because I didn't know that time. I was like a little unsure about what really happens with a coma patient. And the speech therapist told me that the only command that the patient wanted to learn was to say happy birthday to his girl, like little girl. So that was quite touching, because I think these patients kind of lose a lot of hope, but it felt like when the patient chose to learn only one command out of a book full of 50 commands, and he chose to learn just happy birthday, because I guess his daughter's birthday was approaching. So that was a very, touching story that I heard about this. And yeah, I mean, that was just one story. I'll move to just these few pages that I've put together. So yeah, like these are just couple of them, but if you see that there is water, I'm in pain, change position, and then there's also I love you, I need a hug. And you would see that the commands that we have, uh, or the eye movements that we've put together for I love you is quite like, it has that little flirt in it as well. So it is actually three wings, and it's not something very, uh, you know, I don't know, like what's the word, but it's not just left and right. It is three wings. So it has a certain emotion as well. I mean, we've tried to keep that as much as possible. And you'll also see that some important messages like uh, I'm in pain, or there are some which is emergency. Emergency is actually just fluttering very quickly, so they are like quick blinks. So that's emergency, and for toilet it's just to look up. So we've kind of created the commands keeping in mind that they need to be simple, and they need to be relatable and easy to remember as well. But this was really easy, guys. I mean, this was, once you had all the permutation combinations, it was just about putting them together to these commands. Like, which ones needs an easy eye movement and which requires a difficult eye movement. So like, this is what, one of the writers in my team had done. Because I told her that, we have these 7 eye movements, which you can see on the top left: up, down, roll, left, right, wink, and blink. But I wasn't able to create these permutation combinations, and this is really not my forte of opening up Excel sheet. And she did this like really quickly, some formula in Excel, and we had like so many of them in front of us, and then we just had to choose the ones that were simpler, because it can get very difficult to keep using a lot of eye movements for any patient. So we had to be like really careful of choosing the simpler movements. And yeah, these are just I just thought maybe I can put together like how we were working together. And yeah, our conference rooms used to be filled up with these printouts, and then we kept kind of changing color palettes. Here, the color palette was also chosen keeping in mind that they have to be soothing to the eyes, and also, because our design style was very infographic, it had to be really simple. So didn't really try to make it overpowering with colors. Yeah. And here's the case study. If shall I play this, or I mean, you can see this later. I don't know, whatever works.
It's whatever you would like to do. If it's, would you like to play it? It would be lovely to see it.
Okay, sure, I can play it then.
The biggest battle for patients suffering from fatal disorders like ALS, MNDs, and spinal cord injuries is the simple act of communication.
कितनी बार वो हमें कुछ बताना चाहते हैं, but हम लोग वो समझ नहीं पाते.
For these patients and their families, the basic methods of communication are very tedious, and the high-tech assistive tools unaffordable. Eyes are the only part of their bodies that don't betray them till the very end. So we created Blink to Speak, the world's first eye language by Asha A. Cope Foundation and Noor-Jin Hospital. With 50 simple eye movements, patients can express all their needs and desires. The eye language has 8 alphabets. Using multiple easy combinations of these alphabets, patients can say yes, no, I'm not okay, and some important messages like call the doctor, danger, entertainment, and I love you. The book is available for free on the Blink to Speak, Asha A. Cope and Noor-Jin websites.
Blink to Speak is an amazing innovation which will not just help our patients, but help patients all over the world.
Noor-Jin Hospital also conducts free training sessions for patients, caregivers, and their staff. Around 500 nurses are being trained at the hospital. Blink to Speak has reached over 3 million families. 7,000 books in 7 Indian languages have been printed. The hospital is in the process to make this guide available in Spanish, Turkish, German, and other international languages. It has been discussed, applauded, and shared, and also been endorsed by the International Alliance of ALS and ALS India. Blink to Speak has given a new hope to patients, their families, and doctors.
Blink to Speak is going to make all the barriers of communication and set stigma free from all the limits of the
Blink to Speak, the world's first eye language.
So, so this, even at this, like usually what happens in, I mean, in advertising is sometimes that we create an idea and then it kind of fizzles down if you don't really are behind it after, after the time it was created. So, and it gets difficult for us, like for creative people and for people who are working in agencies and design studios to be behind it all the time because you get busy with more work and you want to do more ideas and stuff. But I feel like, this particular idea required a little more push. So, and if I wasn't able to do, who could do it? I actually became a volunteer with these guys, Ashai Hope Foundation. And what I was doing was every second week of the month, I used to go to the hospital for teaching the nurses in the hospital. So every time they have a nursing school as well. So we kind of, so it wasn't like a course or something curated by the government or something. We wanted to get those kind of like we wanted to reach out to the government, but I think I just couldn't do it alone that time. So what we did is basically we started to keep these workshops where we could teach, like, caregivers and also nurses this language, so that because once the caregivers knows the language, then it's easier for the patient to learn. I mean, so these are the kind of workshops that we keep I keep doing. I am still doing them now. We've also started to do them online. And apart from that, there have been some people who are kind enough to kind of create an AI, like, application for this language. What they are really doing is they are creating an application for caregivers, because I think caregivers they don't really need to learn the language, because if an application can kind of, if they can figure it out through an application, pointing towards the patient and understand what the patient is saying, so maybe that just becomes easier so for them. So hence we're kind of trying to create that application at the moment. And yeah, and after this, maybe I can take you through the second, like in the next year, we did one more idea for Neurogen, because they also have like, they also do a lot of work for kids on spectrum, and also high functioning, or like, kids on spectrum. So that's when they asked us to kind of create something, that could help them in mental health. So I don't know if you've seen, I can quickly show you the case video for One Mindful Mind. Again, this was quite an exhaustive design exercise, and it was purely created from, our true love for print, as everything is moving digital, but this is still like very grounded into a print toolkit. And I'm sure like it can get into a digital product as well, but I like the way it is right now, because you can actually, like, when you are creating products for kids on spectrum, they really like to touch and feel things, and textures are really important for them. So so hence we kept this, and we kept this as a print toolkit, and we didn't really think about putting this online other than just a website for it. And I'll just play the case video for this.
1 in every 4 children in the age group of 13 to 15 in India suffer from depression, anxiety, mood, and conduct disorders. Schools have still to introduce a mental health curriculum that fosters the well-being of the child.
Today's fast-paced, stressful, and expectation-driven world has resulted in a major epidemic of psychological and emotional problems in our children. One Mindful Mind is an amazingly simple, universally adaptable kit in positive psychology, and it fundamentally helps in converting parents into counselors.
Researched by Pediatric Psychology Department of Neurogen, OMM has been developed in consultations with psychologists, counselors, parents, and teachers. It has 5 simple tools that can be used at your own pace and convenience. The feeling flashcards are a set of 12 illustrative cards that help children cope with their emotions.
My daughter often gets confused and is not able to differentiate between various emotions. So when we read these flashcards together, the stories help her understand her feelings better.
The Mood Journal records the child's daily thoughts.
See, I'm a working parent, always guilty of not being there for Akash. This mood wheel, this has made things simple to track his feelings.
Hypothetically, if he's upset, he'll color it in red. If he's happy, he'll use yellow. And that's how he colors it in. This gives us a much better indication as to how he's feeling at the time.
The Mindful Workbook is a friendly tool for self-reflection through stories and interactive exercises. The thought cards are an escape into art therapy and self-reflection. The parental guide is a reckoner for your child's mental health. On the site, parents can order the whole kit or download the thought cards and watch stories. Over 9,000 families are using One Mindful Mind. Over 40 parent-child workshops have been conducted and 540 kits have been distributed to childcare centers. One Mindful Mind, helping parents turn into counselors.
Yeah. And I mean, the case study and everything is great, but I am facing a lot of problems with it right now. And I realized that I wanted to be like, in this, at least in this talk, like, I'd like to tell you like the problems that I'm facing at the moment with this this print toolkit is the cost of it, because when we created it, we really did keep in mind that it has to be the best quality of paper and printing, and the box, and the box would be fabric and like really fancy stuff, and created like a beautiful looking kit. Of course, looks pretty, but when it comes to kind of sharing it with more and more people, it turned out to be super expensive. And on the website, I mean, we were taking we can obviously, as an agency, we cannot deal into like any sort of transactions. So it was owned by Neurogen, and they were not ready to kind of produce the kits. So, there was a lot of problems that we faced. So eventually now what we are doing is that we are actually at the moment working on creating a lower budget print toolkit, so maybe, there are certain things of the print toolkit which are very important, like the workbook. So we are creating the workbook with different textures and different papers, which are which will look equally good, but at the same time, the cost will reduce much more. So the idea being, the reason I'm telling you this is because I mean, we still want this work to continue, going to places. So hence, sometimes if things are not working in the right way, the way you had kind of thought about it, I guess we need to find out another way. So that's what we are doing right now. Yeah. And yeah, so now I'll just quickly come to the points that I had written down for all of you, like which are basically around, things that I've come across during my career, and how do I kind of work around things. So, just some simple solutions and life tools, you could call it. Like, it's not my slides ahead are not around work at all. So, I trust I trust all of you with your ideas. I'm sure you'll have like great ideas coming in, even now and even in future. But to move to kind of great, making all of those ideas work, I think we need to kind of ground ourselves. And so I'll just talk about that. Yeah. So this is the first one, which basically lead from the roots, not from the front. We've always heard lead from the front, but I feel that this is something one of my uncle actually uses in his leadership coaching. And he says lead from the roots. And I really liked that, that sentence. And it kind of means that you need to work on yourself and your deepest issues. All of us need to kind of reflect and find out what are your deepest issues, whether it is about some sort of skill, some sort of maybe the way you think of ideas, or the way you kind of execute your ideas. You need to kind of figure out what really your deepest issues or problems are, and then come to the genesis and bring a change at that point. Because what happens, and what I've seen in my career, is also that at times in the beginning of the career, if we don't kind of understand ourselves and what our strengths and weaknesses are, it tends to kind of get layered with a lot of things as you keep working, because you won't get always a lot of time. Once you start working for a company, there will be a lot of pressures and deadlines. So you won't have enough time to kind of work on your weaknesses or strengths later. Then you will just keep on getting in the grind. So I would definitely start with this line, like, lead from your roots, like just try and understand yourself better. And then the result will be visible in front of you, and that's what is important. That kind of clarity is very important from the very beginning. Yeah. And one second, I was trying to put a color palette. I'm so sorry. Okay. Yeah. So this is the other thing that, second one, which is be your own mom. I was just trying to kind of figure out like a interesting metaphor for, for always, like when you keep yourself prepared for anything. I thought this is an interesting metaphor, like, be your own mom, meaning like, whenever you're upset, or whenever you're like scared of something, the first thing that comes to your mind, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's your mom, like, because she usually has solutions to everything. It's just easier to talk to your mother and tell her, like, recently, not recently, actually, a year back, I had some, I wasn't really feeling great at work and things like that. And I went to my mom and I was talking to her, and she just makes it so easy to, understand. I mean, like, we just kind of keep overthinking. And when I told her, she said, why are you so worried? Like, why don't you find a new job? Like, it is just that simple for her to say, because she comes from a very different mindset. So I feel like be your own mom is important. Like, always keep yourself prepared for anything. And like, even after a really bad day, you kind of get yourself to get up. And that's what moms do. So, just be that. Something great will come up, obviously, out of it. Not to stress more on that. Yeah, find an everything bagel by your desk, which really means find a friend, uh, who is also your work buddy, uh, who can add up to your ideas. Like, I have a work buddy. I always end up making at least one or two, at least one good work buddy, where, like, whether he's at, and I don't really care what level that person is in the organization. As far as I am comfortable talking to this person, that person becomes my work buddy. So I really, sometimes they can be your copywriters, your art directors, your partners as well. Sometimes they can be someone else as well in the agency. It just really depends where your exchange of energy is, easy. So yeah, so I mean, this is like your sparring partner, your, like, your co-creator, and most importantly, your well-wisher. So you need this kind of person around you always. Yeah, and this one is basically very extremely important, is to add problems to your playlist. I was really thinking how to kind of put this into a line, and I felt like, yes, this is like, you need to have problems in your playlist. Like, you have to listen to problems. That's the reason, I mean, I said playlist. You really need to listen to problems, because when you start listening to problems, the design flows automatically. And this is what I have seen. And ever since I conceived the idea for Blink to Speak, I haven't been able to yet conceive another idea which is at that level. And it's okay, it's absolutely fine, because I guess I haven't heard those problems yet. So but I mean, I think we just need to keep our eyes and ears open, and it will come to you. So, but what's important is to keep listening to these problems, and and design will follow on its own. Like, just have an ear to it. And yeah, what gets you moving, that's important. And that's like, that's a question. I mean, it's a very difficult question, to be honest, but some people I've known are super clear with the answers. Some people just know what keeps, what gets them moving. So, find your skateboard, like, find your own voice and reflect on what about the weird world we live in gives joy to your soul. Like, you need to find that for yourself. I didn't, and I'm telling you this, and all these things that you see in this presentation are basically some of them I haven't done in my career. So, sometimes I've struggled with finding my own voice. But now, I think my voice, that I mean, the kind of work I love to do is work that has some sort of utilitarian approach. But I don't know necessarily that it will always happen, but my intent is to create work that people can use. But it'll be great if you guys can answer this question for yourself. What gets you moving? Like, even if it is just a skateboard, it's fine. But you need to answer that question. And it can be anything, it can be helping underprivileged kids, or it could be fashion or activism or gaming, or like, hard selling. I like to hard sell stuff. I like to create myth, from nowhere, for like the ugliest looking, I don't know, ugliest looking, whatever, like, dress, for example. I still want to create a myth around this ugliest looking dress, or you want to just make NFTs, whatever it is, like whatever will bring you out of your bed in the morning. So just try to answer those questions. Okay, this is this is just really like, in a way I'm trying to say that take a break, take some productive breaks when you're working continuously. You need to charge your brain enough to think of better ideas, because your first second ideas can be great, but I think you only come to know that you've done good enough when you have like lots of ideas in front of you. And that can actually get very cluttered, like, when you think of so many ideas, and our creative mind, they just keep going into every direction. We just have very short attention span, at least I have. So how do you still keep yourself grounded? I have tried this couple of times. It has worked, sometimes it hasn't, but let's see, like, if you can find some productive break to recharge your mind. And I also feel like when you clear clutter, in literally like your cluttered wardrobe, when you clear it up, it kind of brings little more space somehow in the wardrobe, and in your mind too, I guess. So try it out. Yeah, and again, find a voice. Don't ride the one trick pony. Like, find a voice beyond work. And like, you'll see all good CDs, they will know art and copy both together, mostly. uh, Even if a copywriter doesn't know how to create art, they at least have a very visual, what do you call, bent of mind. Even that is good. And for an art director, I think it is I'm an art director, and it is tricky to kind of write copy like the way copywriters do. But I think what is important is to have the judgment, at least have the judgment that this is great and this is not. And for that, you need to really read a lot, and you need to really see a lot of work that's happening. So yes, like, all the websites that we have where we can see great inspirational work, we need to be always doing that, like, as reading a book, as reading a book, maybe that can become your reading every day, like, what's going on in the world in for ideas. So yeah, to get things done, you must know a little bit of everything. So work on your strengths, but don't abandon your weaknesses. That's all. Like, just see if there is certain weakness, you can kind of work a little bit more, but don't overthink it. Definitely what many leaders have been saying is to work on your strengths, but yeah, I feel that you shouldn't abandon your weaknesses. Just see if there's a way that you can work on that as well. But yeah, be a good creative first. Yeah. And this one is just like, there will always be a lot of work in your job list. Too many things will be there, like, and especially when you are starting your career, your seniors have this weird habit of kind of putting a lot of pressure, and you'll have lots of work to do and manage. But I think empty slots are an account, an account executive's kind of dream. Okay. But while that is happening, don't forget to, uh, figure out what your priorities are and set them, and then move forward. Like, your unique interests are as important as, like, your agency's profit and loss statement. So your unique interests are important, so pay attention to them as well. uh, have that kind of balance, because ultimately it is, like, you will see that a side hustle is as important as your main hustle. So, prioritize that as well. And be kind to yourself. I'm sure you guys have heard this a lot of times, but we still forget, so please don't rely just on someone else's validation on your ideas and work. I have done this, and this is a big mistake, because it can get very toxic when you are always seeking validation from everybody. Especially it happens because, we are new and we are just learning, so we want validation from our bosses and our creative directors and everything. But I feel that try to, as much as you take validation, but also, know that you shouldn't always be dependent on validation. Try to kind of find ways to reward yourself and appreciate your little efforts. Otherwise, relying on one person's validation can really get toxic. So, and if you feel you're getting into that loop, uh, you know I mean, just kind of take a little break. I don't know whether it is talking to your creative director that, I'm feeling that I'm too dependent on, I'm not able to conclude an idea myself. I want to learn how to conclude an idea. So maybe have these kind of conversations with your creative directors, because otherwise you always will feel that, okay, I have n number of ideas, but I don't know which one works. And, so have those kind of conversations. Okay. Yeah, so WhatsApp blue ticks. Your best ideas won't leave you on red, which basically means that, like, a, like if you have a great idea, you'll know it, first of all. Okay. And a great idea will get you responses. You will see that it will attract uh, more people. It will kind of, the team will automatically start to, uh, you know, come together, uh, and things will fall into place. Good ideas have that power to generate interest, from others. And sometimes an idea you feel is good might not get the same response, but maybe it's not your best idea then, so that's also like a filter in a way that, you know if you're not getting enough, like if it is not attracting a lot of energy, that this is not there, it's not there. So don't get, like, stuck on it. Just park it, put it on the shelf, and put it on the shelf, like on a bookshelf or something. Like, you read 2 pages of the book and you keep it, and then you pick it back, right? Some other project will happen and you might be able to use that idea better. So I just feel like, move on when you don't have that great idea happening. Okay. Get fired up is, because once I didn't get fired, but I was late, like, one of my jobs, they like the entire management had changed, and they just started to fire people left, right, and center, and I was one of them too. And but I mean, I don't know, maybe there's a difference between saying fired and getting laid off. So I think that for me it was the latter. And it was a huge thing. Like, I kind of started to feel that I'm not good enough. Like, I was the first one, easy pick for people to kind of just throw. I was like, I was feeling extremely rejected and stuff like that. Like, so, but you can either stay disappointed or you can get motivated to do something better. So get fired up is what I would say. If something like this ever happens with any one of you, it's not really because you weren't good, but it's because a lot of factors in that company didn't really work out for you. And we tend to kind of think, because we are super emotional people, creative people are like, I can cry any moment. So, if something like this happens, we tend to kind of get really, harsh on ourselves. So just like, if it, I'm saying this will not happen, but if it does, just get fired up, like, go for a vacation and then come back and do what you want to, you know. So yeah. Unapproved ideas, they are disappointments for all creative people. Like, reasons for not getting approval for your ideas can be anything: budgets, processes, marketing processes, deadlines. Uh, most of the times, it's the clients. Clients are scared of, you know. They are scared that this idea will not give them the results. So, they'll always go for something much safer, or it would be budgets and stuff like that. Like, or it could be someone's bias also, I don't know, etc., etc. There are various reasons for unapproved ideas. And why don't you put them, I am actually just repeating myself, but just put them on a shelf, repackage and bring them back later. Another client, another story, or it could be a side hustle. I have used an idea which I had presented to a client, and in fact, I didn't even get to present it to the client. It was rejected internally, but I still believed in the idea, and I am hopeful to kind of create a side hustle project with that, so in some or the other form, I'll bring it out, so it doesn't have to be like, thrown away. And yeah, so don't be a rent-free landlord to disappointments. And yeah, this one is, it's not a dead baby until you kill it. I know this sounds like really I don't know, gross or whatever, it just, what I mean here is basically that your unapproved ideas always have a second life. So, give it a side hustle, like I said, or because it's only you who can care for your ideas. So it's only you who are killing it, and you are the ones who can give it life. So again, like, be the neonatal ICU and figure out another way for it. If you are really if you really feel there is something about that idea, again, you need to filter it. Like, is it a great idea? Are you attracting those kind of energies around it? If you are, and it's still getting if it's still not approved, it's still not being used, then definitely nurture it more in some other form. And don't let your pitch drop. Now, when I say pitch drop, it really means that stay consistent and keep putting things out. So like, stay consistent. Like, you've done some great ideas, don't let your pitch drop. Just continue thinking, continue putting things out. Sometimes they will be great, sometimes they won't be, but like, don't stop. Okay, I've done, like, I have done 3 major projects this year, and next year, okay, yes, you can take a break, a sabbatical or whatever of that sort, but still keep doing something creative. So keep doing something to kind of keep your creative juices like running wild in your head, you know. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. My name is Tyler. I'm going to be one of the admissions advisors helping you guys to start your creative careers here with the Miami Ad School with our 4 portfolio programs: art direction, copywriting, photography and video, and design, as well as our boot camps. We are well equipped to make you well equipped for the creative industry. And my job is to help you transition smoothly from prospective to enrolled student. We have financial aid and scholarships available for all of our portfolio programs, and our 4 U.S. locations, Miami, Atlanta, San Francisco, and New York, as well as our international locations, are ready for you guys to go ahead and enroll when you are ready. So feel free to go to our website, www.miamiadschool.com, hit apply now, start your application, and if you have any questions, set up a call and we will be happy to help you.